The company's announcement hall buzzed with nervous excitement. Hundreds of employees filled the room, whispering to one another while waiting for the arrival of the company's new CEO, the founder's only son. Some people looked hopeful, others looked worried. Everyone knew the company was changing hands, but no one knew exactly what kind of leader would step into power. Then the doors opened, and he walked in like he already owned the world. His suit looked expensive enough to pay someone's yearly salary. His shoes gleamed beneath the bright corporate lights. Confidence radiated from him, not the quiet confidence of experience, but the loud confidence of someone who had inherited success without understanding what built it. He smiled as applause echoed through the room, but there was something cold behind that smile, something arrogant. I had worked at that company for nearly 15 years. I had helped build client relationships, managed crises behind the scenes, and carried projects through impossible deadlines. The founder himself once told me, "Companies survive because of people others overlook." I never forgot those words. Apparently, his son never learned them. As the applause faded, the new CEO adjusted his cufflinks and scanned the crowd slowly. Then his eyes landed on me. A smirk appeared instantly. "Well," he said casually into the microphone, "I've spent the last few days reviewing this company, and I realized something." The room became quiet. We've been carrying unnecessary weight for far too long. A few uneasy laughs echoed. Then he lifted a document. My name was printed across the top. "I believe leadership requires bold decisions," he continued smoothly. "So my first executive action is simple." He paused dramatically. "We're eliminating liabilities." The room froze. He stepped down from the stage and handed me the termination letter personally, almost proudly. "We don't need outdated employees holding this company back." Gasps spread through the audience. Some employees stared at me in shock. Others looked down at the floor. The humiliation should have destroyed me. But strangely, it didn't. I accepted the letter calmly. Then I smiled. Not angrily, not bitterly, just knowingly. For the first time since he entered the room, uncertainty flickered across his face. Because I wasn't reacting the way he expected. I didn't beg. I didn't argue. I simply turned around and walked out, and behind me, silence followed. Outside the building, cold wind hit my face as I stared at the termination papers in my hand. 15 years, reduced to a single signature. At first, anger rushed through me, not because I lost the job, but because of how easily loyalty had been discarded. I had stayed late while others went home. I had solved problems executives never even noticed. I had protected the company's reputation more times than anyone knew, and now the founder's son treated me like a meaningless expense. I closed my eyes and took a slow breath. Then suddenly, I remembered the contract. Years earlier, when the founder promoted me into senior leadership, he insisted on adding a special protection clause into my agreement. At the time, he told me quietly, "One day, this company may forget your value. If that happens, this ensures you're protected." Back then, I thought he was simply being generous. Now I realized he had been wise, very wise. I sat inside my car and opened the digital copy stored in my files. Page after page passed beneath my fingertips until I finally found it. The clause, clear, legal, undeniable. If I was terminated without documented professional cause, I had the right to claim a substantial ownership stake in the company. My heart started pounding. The new CEO had publicly fired me without even reviewing the agreement. He thought he was removing me from the company. Instead, he had triggered the one clause capable of shifting power entirely, and he didn't even know it yet. The next morning, the board meeting began like any other corporate meeting. Executives shuffled papers, board members reviewed reports. The new CEO sat confidently at the head of the table, clearly pleased with himself. Then the conference room doors opened. His father walked in, and the entire atmosphere changed instantly. The founder rarely raised his voice, but this time, anger radiated from him before he even spoke. "You did what?" The room fell silent. His son blinked nervously. "Dad, did you even read the contract before firing her?" The founder slammed a stack of documents onto the table so hard several people jumped. Confusion spread across the room. The new CEO grabbed the papers quickly and started flipping through them. Then his face lost all color. Page after page, line after line. The confidence disappeared from his eyes. "What is this?" one board member asked cautiously. The founder turned toward them grimly. "This," he said coldly, "is the consequence of arrogance." He pointed directly at the contract. "Her agreement contains a protection clause granting significant ownership rights if she's terminated without legal cause." The room exploded into whispers. The founder continued, "My son publicly fired one of the company's most valuable executives without reviewing a single detail." The young CEO looked physically ill now. "Dad, I didn't know." "That," his father replied sharply, "is exactly the problem." I had remained near the doorway quietly listening. Then I stepped forward. Every eye turned toward me. The new CEO looked like he had seen a ghost. I walked calmly to the table and placed my contract beside theirs. "As you can see," I said evenly, "the termination activated the clause immediately." One board member adjusted his glasses while rereading the document. "My goodness," he whispered, "it's legitimate." The room became painfully quiet. The founder closed his eyes briefly, disappointment written across his face. Meanwhile, his son looked terrified. Within days, legal confirmation finalized everything. I officially became one of the company's largest shareholders. News spread through the building faster than wildfire. Employees whispered in hallways. Executives scrambled through emergency meetings. Investors started asking difficult questions. And the once arrogant CEO suddenly looked very small. He approached me privately 3 days later. Gone was the confident smirk. Gone was the superiority. Now he looked exhausted, desperate. "Listen," he said quietly, "I made a mistake." I folded my arms patiently. "I was trying to prove myself," he continued. "I thought making bold decisions would show leadership." I looked at him for a long moment. "Leadership," I said softly, "isn't about humiliating people to feel powerful." He lowered his eyes. For the first time, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then came the emergency board vote. The same conference room where he publicly embarrassed me now held his own reckoning. Board members reviewed declining stock prices, investor concerns, and internal instability caused by his reckless decisions. Finally, the founder stood. "We've reached a decision." The young CEO sat stiffly. "Effective immediately," his father continued. "You are removed from your position as CEO." The room became silent. The young man looked around desperately, hoping someone would defend him. No one did. "You can't do this," he whispered. His father's voice remained calm. "No," he replied. "You did this yourself." One by one, board members confirmed the vote. Unanimous. The same employees who once feared him now quietly watched the consequences unfold. And for the first time, he understood something important. Respect cannot be inherited. It must be earned. Weeks passed. The company slowly stabilized under new leadership restructuring. This time, decisions focused less on ego and more on trust. The founder eventually offered me a permanent board position. I accepted, not because I wanted revenge, but because I genuinely cared about the people still working there. Employees deserved better than fear-based leadership. They deserved stability. They deserved respect. And honestly, so did I. Months later, during a corporate networking event downtown, I saw him again, standing alone near the entrance, no assistance, no applause, no authority, just a man quietly facing the consequences of his own arrogance. He noticed me immediately. For a moment, it looked like he wanted to speak, maybe apologize, maybe explain himself. But instead, he simply lowered his eyes. And I realized something unexpected. I wasn't angry anymore, because this story had never truly been about revenge. It was about self-worth, about understanding your value even when others fail to see it, about realizing that loyalty should never require humiliation. As I stepped toward the exit, I paused beside him briefly. Then I smiled gently and said the words that finally closed the chapter forever. Always read the contract. A faint, embarrassed laugh escaped him, and for the first time, there was no arrogance left in his face, only humility. Outside, city lights reflected across the rain-soaked streets while my driver opened the car door. I glanced back at the glowing skyline one last time. Life has a strange way of shifting power. Sometimes the people dismissed as invisible become the ones quietly holding everything together. And sometimes losing your position is exactly what leads you toward the place you were always meant to stand. Not beneath someone else's shadow, but fully in your own light. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe for more emotional stories about resilience, second chances, and personal growth. Because sometimes the people others underestimate become the ones who change everything.